Babaji and the 18th SIDDHAS KRIYA Yoga Tradition. Third chapter, Babaji's quest for self-realization. Nagaraj felt that his scholarship with regards to the scriptures was not bringing him any closer to self-realization, lasting happiness and fulfillment. He became increasingly dissatisfied. He was like a person by a wall, jumping up and down to get glimpses of a beautiful garden on the other side. As he matured, he came to understand that only a permanent change in consciousness, God realization, could end his search for such fulfillment. His fame as a scholar was becoming a source of distraction. The metaphysical disputations were not bringing him closer to the goal of enlightenment. Words, no matter how well reasoned, could not capture the truth. Words could at best point the way to it. But to arrive at the goal, one needed to go beyond the words and reasonings. As yet, he had found no guide or method to help him reach his goal. Pilgrimage to Katirgama, Sri Lanka. It was during this period, at the age of 11, that he made a long, difficult journey on foot and by boat with a group of scholars, ascetics, from Benares to the sacred shrine of Katirgama in Sri Lanka. Katirgama is located near the southernmost tip of the island of Sri Lanka, formerly known as Ceylon. The island is nearly 280 miles long. Babaji's journey to Katirgama required many months. Nearly 800 years earlier, Gautama Buddha made a similar pilgrimage to the shrine of Murugan at Katirgama. Ever since, it has been the most revered place in Sri Lanka for both Hindus and Sinhalese Buddhists. The temples in the Katirgama temple compound are administered by both Hindu and Buddhist priests. Members of both committees worship freely and together in all the temples there. In recent times, a Muslim mosque has been also established there. To this day, Katirgama stands as an example of religious harmony, expressing the SIDDHAS universal teaching of unity in diversity. The Katirgama Temple. The main temple in Katirgama, established by Siddha Bhoganathar, unlike all other temples, contains no carved image of God. Instead, Bhoganathar installed a mystic yantra geometric design carved into a golden plate, representing within its form and mantra syllabus a crystallization of the great deity Murugan. To this day, the yantra plate is guarded from public view. Only the priests of the temple may view it. Once a year during an annual celebration, which generally falls around the end of July, the yantra is carried from the shrine in a procession on the back of an elephant, escorted by the priests and a huge crowd of devotees. The mystic power of this yantra was imparted by Siddha Bhoganathar for the benefit of all those who seek the assistance of Murugan. Ramaya, 1982, Volume 3rd, page number 36. Down through the centuries, Katirgama has been the scene of many miracles. The temple lies deep into a forest besides a small river known as the Anika Ganga. In this forest, from time immemorial, saints, sages, and siddhas have practiced. austerities, and today the atmosphere is charged with spiritual vibrations. Katirgama was also the scene of the god Murugan's courtship of the mortal princess Valli, a Vedda girl. The aborigines of Ceylon are called Vedas. It is at Katirgama the Kartikeya met and married her. Tradition has it that since then Lord Kartikeya or Murugan is still living there. Katirgam is an apabhramsa or corrupted form of Kartikeya Grama, that is the village of Lord Kartikeya. Babaji and Boganathar at Katirgama. Nagaraj met Siddha Boganathar at Katirgama and seeing his greatness became his disciple, sitting under a large spreading banyan tree with him for 6 months. Nagaraj performed intensive yogic sadhana, yogic practices, particularly various dhyana kriyas, meditation techniques into which he was initiated by Boganathar. The tapas, intensive yogic practice, was done for long periods without a break, initially for 24 hours and later for days, weeks, and up to 48 days at a stretch. During this period, Boganathar watched and progressively initiated him into more advanced kriyas. For the first time, with depending meditation experiences, the truth studied and debated as a scholar become a reality for him. The various meditation kriyas unchained his mind from the limiting processes of the thinking mind, allowing his consciousness to expand and realize its identity with an undifferentiated absolute reality. The I consciousness receded and a Tao or in Tamil Tan consciousness became established in a series of experiences. In the early stages of God communion, Sarvikalpa Samadhi, his consciousness merged in the cosmic spirit. His life force withdrew from the physical body, leaving it completely motionless and cold. As through it was dead, the Samadhi experiences depended gradually over the months, with Bhoganathar reached a climax with a vision of Lord Kumaraswamy Murugan in his form as the eternal youth. He realized that he was now incarnating the consciousness of Lord Murugan. Under Boganathar's guidance, he thoroughly analyzed the 10 systems of Indian philosophy and came to understand and appreciate the full significance of Siddhantam. Quest for initiation from Agastya to Kurtalam. In ancient times, Siddhas such as Tirumular, Agastya, Boganathar and Roma Rishi realized and their capacity for experiencing and manifesting the divine was not limited to the spiritual plane of existence. The divine could and would descend further into lower planes of consciousness. The intellectual, mental, vital, and physical bodies in such a descent the divine transformations them from limited, independent, habitual modes of being into modes which are fully conscious and harmonious expressions of the directing Godhead. Such a state is difficult to conceive of given the limits of our intellectual with its tendency to measure oceanic reality in teacup sized concepts, confusing the real from its mental and intellectual representations. It is something like the problem one has standing at the foot of a skyscraper building, trying to imagine the view from the top floor. The Siddhas discovered that through a progressive surrender of their being, their ego, and their very lives, the divinity would, in some exceptional cases, descend and transform them. Such a transformative process was expedited by the intensive practice of various kriyas, including hatha yoga, asanas, meditation, mantras, and bhakti yogas. But above all, kriya kundalini pranayama. The transformation become a race against time, giving the natural tendency for catabolism, the breakthrough of cells and tissues, and exceed anabolism, cell growth, after the age of about 25 up until the age of 25 or so in the average human being. Anabolism exceeds catabolism to maintain an anabolic rate superior to the catabolic rate and prolong the physical body's lifelong enough for the Kundalini Pranayama and other techniques to help complete the process of divine transformation. Many of the Siddhas used Kaya Kalpa, herbal and mineral salt mixtures prepared according to specific formulas. Bhoganathar inspired his disciple Babaji to seek this objective of Siddhanta Yoga and so directed him to seek initiation into Kriya Kundalini Pranayama from the legendary Siddha Agastya at Kurtalam in the Pothigai Hills in what is now the Tinnevelli district. Babaji travelled on foot to Kurtalam and on arriving there at the Shakti Peetam, one of the 64 shrines throughout India dedicated to God as a Divine Mother, he made a solemn vow to remain at the spot until Agastya would initiate him into the secrets of yoga. Babaji, after fixing himself in a particular asana or meditation posture so as to steal himself from the coming ordeal, closed his eyes and began to pray. He prayed with all of his body, heart, mind, and soul for days. He prayed that Agastya would come and initiate him. Some pilgrims, recognizing the greatness of his quest, would at times feed him or give him water to drink. Despite rain, insects, heat, and dust, his resolve was so intense that he would not allow himself to leave the place when doubts assailed him. He prayed with even more fervor for forbearance. When memories of his life, his scholarship, and his fame came to him, he compared them to the dust which blew around him. Nothing held any significance to him, even death. He would not allow the fear of suffering or death to catch hold of him. His love for Agastya and the personification of the divine whom he was seeking grew day by day, dispelling the clouds of despair, boredom, and desire for relief, which threatened to engulf him from all sides. His physical body became more emaciated and weaker day by day. Babaji looked upon his body as if it were not his own. He had surrendered him life into the hands of God, and he knew the God would either grant his prayers to see Agastya or allow his life to end. There was no more reason for him to continue living without the initiation of Agastya. On the 48th day, when Babaji was on the verge of complete collapse. With great longing, he simply repeated over and over again the name Agastya. Suddenly, the eminent Siddha stepped out of the nearby forest and came up to where Babaji was sitting in prayer. Agastya's heart was melted by the love of Nagaraj. Agastya called Nagaraj's name in a soft voice and then embraced him. After giving him water and food, Agastya initiated Nagaraj into the secrets of Kriya Kundalini Pranayama or Vasi Yogam, or it is otherwise referred to in the writings of the Siddhas. The powerful breathing technique is the crystallization of some of the most important techniques of the Yoga Siddhas. Agastya emphasized the strict conditions under which it was to be practiced and its potential for awakening. The higher levels of consciousness, spiritual enlightenment, and ultimately the transformation of all five bodies, the physical, vital, mental, intellectual, and spiritual. He then dedicated Babaji to go to Badrinath in the upper ranges of the Himalayan mountains and to become the greatest Siddha the world have ever known. Saurabha Samadhi at Badrinath. Badrinath is situated in the Himalayan mountains at an altitude of 10,243 feet, a few miles south of the border of Tibet. It lies at the confluence of the Rishi Ganga and Alakananda rivers. The area was once carpeted with wild berries or badri, from which it received its name. Guarding it on either side are the Nar and Narayan mountain ranges, and in the distance is Neelakant Peak, towering above to an altitude of nearly 22,000 feet. Close by on the bank of the turquoise blue Alakananda River is a hot water spring. The Tapt Kund, Joshimath, the nearest town, is named after one of the four famous monasteries maths established by Adi Shankaracharya. It lies 24 kilometers south of Badrinath. Heavy snow blocked the path from Joshimath to Badrinath between mid-October and the beginning of May. Only the most courageous of yogis are able to live at Badrinath year round. Badrinath has been sanctified for thousands of years by the hermitages of saints, yogis, rishis, and siddhas, as well as by the presence of a great temple dedicated to Sri Badrinarayan Lord Vishnu. References to the Sri Badrinarayan temple are made in the Vedas, indicating that prior to Babaji's arrival there, it was a place of pilgrimage for thousands of years. It may have become a place sacred to the Buddhists with the missions sent out by the Buddhist emperor Ashoka in the 4th century BC. Phonia 1987, page number 112. Control of it returned to the Hindus in the 9th century AD due to the intercession of Adi Shankaracharya. Near the end of his life, the stone carving of Sri Badrinarayan depicts a youthful male figurine sitting in lotus posture with a striking resemblance to Babaji. It was installed there by the Adi Shankaracharya, who found it in the Alakananda river nearby after being guided to it in a vision. According to the Skanda Purana, when Adi Shankaracharya was climbing towards Ashtakhand, a sacred place for meditation, and Akashvani spoke to him. O Shankar, the thing you wanted to attain through meditation can be attained by you by re-enshrining the idol of Lord Vishnu, which lays asleep in the Narad Kund. Avail yourself of this opportunity and be blessed for having done. So, to fulfill these divine orders, Adi Shankaracharya dived into Narad Kund and recovered the idol of Lord Vishnu. Narad Kund is that part of the river by a large boulder directly into front of the present temple. He re-enshrined it there and built a southern Indian style temple around it. Subsequent events indicate that Ashtakand was Joshimath, where he subsequently attained the divine light, and this divine light was the Akashvani. Phonia 1987, page number 112. Since that day, about 3200 BC, on which Lord Krishna, according to Srimad Bhagavatam, commanded his disciple Uddhava to go to Drikashrama and contemplate him. People having been going on pilgrimage to this holy place, it is the pious wish of every truly religious Indian to make a pilgrimage to Badrinath at least once in their lifetime. From time immemorial, even when travel in the Himalayan regions was much more difficult and dangerous, thousands of Indians at great expense and personal risk from all over the country have paid their hearts homage year after year to the Lord Badrinarayan. The pilgrims feel that their evil karmas and tendencies are washed away by undertaking such visits to holy places. They attain moksha, liberation from the wheel of samsara, the cycle of birth and death. The test of this faith is also after the return from such a pilgrimage. If after the pilgrimage the pilgrim is filled with spiritual vibrations and can live a pure life of righteousness, devotion, truth, love, and purity, then he has certainly been liberated and the pilgrimage has served its supreme purpose. Some pilgrims, though their number may be small, do rise to such spiritual heights. Sing 1980, page number 14 and 15, 18 and 20. Babaji made the long pilgrimage to Badrinath and then spent 18 long, lonely months practicing intensively all the yogic kriyas taught to him by his gurus Agastya and Bhoganatha. After 18 months of arduous yogic discipline, Nagaraj entered a state of Saurabha Samadhi, wherein the divinity descendant merged with a transformed the spiritual, intellectual, mental, vital and physical bodies. The physical body ceased to age and sparkled with a golden luster of divine incorruptibility.